Alright, so we're going to go ahead and practice a little bit in IXL using the quadratic formula. I've gone ahead on my notes and written out the actual formula. And I started with number 1, 4d squared plus 6d minus 3 equals 0. I identified the a term, which is 4, the b term, which is 6, and the c term, which is negative 3. I went ahead and substituted my values in for the formula. So I've got the opposite of 6, plus or minus 6 squared minus 4, times 4, which is the a, times c, which is the negative 3 here. All of that divided by 2 multiplied by 4. So we've got negative 6 plus or minus square root of 6, or yes, square root of 6 squared, which 6 squared is 36. And then we've got negative 4 times 4, which is negative 16, times negative 4, which is actually positive 48. And we're going to divide all of that by 8. So we've got negative 6 plus or minus, well, 36 plus 48, that's what, 84. 6 plus 4 is 14. Carry the 1. 3 plus 4 is 7 plus 1 is 8. We're going to take the square root of that and divide it by 8. So then we've got 84. So let's think about that. 84, the closest perfect square we come to that is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. And then 10 times 10 is 100. So obviously this is neither one of those. So let's see if we can break down the factors of 84. We have, of course, 1 and 84. 2 and 42, 3 and, let's see, 3 goes into 8 twice, and that leaves us with 24, so 3 times 28, 4 times 21, not 5. Let's try 6 times 14, 7 times 12, not 8, not 9, not 10, 11, no, would be 11 times 8 is 8, 12, yeah, 12 and 7. So I was looking for something with a perfect square. Don't see one. So let's see. I could use this one. That's the highest perfect square I have. So let's break this down into negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 4 times the square root of 21, all divided by 8. So we've got negative 6 plus 2 root 21 divided by 8, and then negative 6 minus 2 root 21 divided by 8. And so what I'm going to do at this point is I am going to grab my calculator, because if you notice, the instructions do not allow us to put a root in. So we actually have to calculate it into a decimal. So I'm going to do negative 6 plus 2 times the square root of 21. Get that answer. And then I'm going to divide that by 8, and I get 0.395. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Negative 6 minus the square root, minus 2 times the square root of 21. Get that answer. Divide that by 8. And we get negative 1.895. So we have to round these to the nearest hundreds. You do that by looking at the number next to it on the right to determine what this number should be. So in this case, since in the thousands place we have 5 or greater, I'm going to round this up. Well, it's a 9, so it has to be rounded to a 0, which means this goes up to a 4. And here I have negative 1.895 again. This 5 would determine that this is a 0, which means this is actually negative 1.90. So these would be my answers, or my zeros, or my x-intercepts. So D would equal these numbers. So we're going to put them in here. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Hello, I started on number 2, which is 2m squared plus 7m plus 5 equals 0. I've got A is 2, B is 7, C is 5, and I went ahead and started filling in the formula, the opposite of the B term, which is 7, plus or minus B squared minus 4 times 2, which is the A, times 5, which is the C. All of that divided by 2 times the A term, which is 2. And I noticed I started actually working it out, and I realized I hadn't pushed record. So you guys kind of caught me in the middle here. So I've got the opposite of 7 is negative 7, and then we've got 49, and this is, let's see, negative 8 times 5 is negative 40. All of that divided by 4, so we've got negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 40 is 9. Divide that by 4, so we've got negative 7 plus, well, the square root of 9 is 3. Divide that by 4, and then we've got negative 7 minus 3 divided by 4. So negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4 divided by 4. In this case, m would be negative 1. And over here, we've got negative 7 minus 3, which is negative 10 divided by 4. In this case, it says that we could leave these as proper fractions or improper fractions, so I'm going to leave it as negative 10 over 4. So we've got negative 1. And forgive me, I'm doing a little checking in my head. I'm doing negative 1 squared is 1 times 2 is 2. Plus negative 7, which is negative 5 plus 5 is 0. Okay, that one's right. And then 10 over 4, negative 10 over 4. That's a little bit more, not tedious, but I'm guessing they were good. I was supposed to reduce it. It said simplest form. I tell you what, now I know how you feel. Alright, so you caught me on that one. Hopefully you saw it and you're like, no, Miss Clark, don't push the button. And I pushed it anyway. So let's go ahead. That was my fault. What I'm going to do in the interest of time, because you see that these can take quite a while, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next problem. And I'll be right back. Alright, here's our next problem. Hopefully I won't make the same mistake I made before. It's called pay attention. So the opposite of 7 is negative 7, plus or minus 49. Now this is negative 36 multiplied by negative 5. So negative 36 multiplied by negative 5. So that's 30. So positive 180. All of that divided by 18. Well, negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 plus 180 is 229 over 18. Now I could, let's see, 229. It's not divisible by 2 because this is 9. And it's not divisible by 3 because if I add 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 9 is 13. That's 13 is not divisible by 3. I think what 229 is prime, guys. Because 4 won't go into it. 5, 6, no, it's prime. So we're going to do negative 7 plus the square root of 229 divided by 18, and then we're going to do negative 7 minus the square root of 229 divided by 18. Let's go ahead and grab the calculator. So I've got negative 7 plus the square root of 229. Get that result. Divide that by 18. And that gives me 0.451. And then I'm going to do negative 7 minus the square root of 229. Divide that by 18. And I get negative 1.229. Let's round to the nearest hundredth place. So K then would be negative 0.4, not negative, but 0.45. And it would also be negative 1.23. Now, if you're wondering how I got 0.45 here, in the thousands places, 1 is not greater than 4, or it's not 5 or greater, so I just leave the 5 and drop the 1. Here, the 9 is greater than 5, so that means that I round up the hundredths place 1 decimal, or 1 value, and I got negative 1.23. Alright, let's go ahead and look at the next one. As you can see by the right hand side, I just jumped a level so that you can see what every level looks like, because if I took the time to do every single problem, we would be here for a very long time. So our next one was 9k squared minus 1 equals 0. A is 9. There is no b, so I put 0. C is equal to negative 1. I went ahead and substituted values into the quadratic formula. So the opposite of 0 plus or minus 0 squared minus 4 times a, which is 9, c, which is negative 1, all of that divided by 2 times the a term, which is 9. So I have to remember to turn this camera back on, because then I start doing the math and it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot. So we've got 0 squared, which is just 0. And then negative 4 times positive 9 is negative 36, times negative 1, which is positive 36. All of that divided by 18. So we've got 0 plus or minus, because there really is no opposite of 0. The square root of 36 over 18. Well, what we know is that we no longer need to write this 0. So we can write plus the square root of 36 is 6 over 18. And we can write minus 6 over 18. Therefore, k would be equal to 1/3, and k would be equal to negative 1/3. Now, I really don't need a calculator for this to know that 1/3 is 0.33, and negative 1/3 is negative 0.33. All right, let's see if we can do one that's a little bit higher. All right, this question is negative 8h squared minus 2 equals negative 8h. And if you remember, in the notes we talked about, in order to make the quadratic formula work effectively, we have to make sure that it is set equal to 0. Right now it isn't. So what we need to do is move this 8h to the other side of the equation. So now I've got negative 8h squared plus 8h minus 2 equals 0. Now we can determine the a, which is negative 8, b, which is positive 8, and c, which is negative 2. Alright, so we're going to take the opposite of the b term, plus or minus the square root of the b term squared, minus 4 times the a term times the c term, all divided by 2 times the a term. That gives us negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared is 64 And then we've got negative 4 times negative 8 is positive 32. Positive 32 times negative 2 is negative 64. All over negative 16. And so we've got negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 0 divided by negative 16. So we know the square root of 0 is 0. So we've got really negative 8 plus 0 divided by negative 16. And negative 8 minus 0 divided by negative 16. Well, this would be negative 8 over negative 16, and this would be negative 8 over negative 16. So in this case, what this would be as a decimal is 0.5. And this also would be 0.5. All right. So H is equal to, or you could say this is 1/2, and this is also 1/2, which as a decimal value is 0.5. So I could put it in fraction form. That's what I want to do. Some of you like decimals. I like fractions. It's okay. We can be friends. Oh, we're awesome. So that this video doesn't end up extremely long, I'm going to stop right there. If you have any questions during class, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll be there to help you. And go ahead. You try. Take it to 100.